Кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народи, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
The Leaf Spring Army will never die, and we are back on air, and we are going to keep staying on air. No one's going to take us off. To quickly explain to y'all what's happened, we have just been DDoS attacked, and the last stream was completely knocked off air, although our internet was entirely operational and just fine. It was not a problem on OBS's end, it was not a problem on YouTube's end, it was not a problem on our internet provider's end. That was entirely something that was deliberately done by another group of people as a DDoS attack on this channel to try and take down our stream and to take down our news, but one thing's for sure is that we are never going to be taken off air. I don't care what people do to this channel or try and attempt. It may even happen again tonight. I just want y'all to get a heads up on that. This stream may get knocked off air as well, just like the last one was by the people who have been able to trace down some information to be able to get into our system and DDoS it like that. So just keep that in mind and just be ready for it.
Yeah.
So
it's actually like decently, like fairly likely it's going to happen again, because for somebody to be able to do that, that means they've gotten our home network IP address, which means that it's compromised now. Because like the enforcer said, our internet didn't go out. It was simply being interrupted, and we were having problems hearing each other on Discord, although we could still hear each other. It was just being messed with, disrupted.
Yeah, and as soon as our stream ended, as soon as I cut it off on OBS, everything went back to operating just fine. So it's a DDoS attack, no doubt about it. And if y'all know anyone out there who is happening to DDoS attack, or you have a pretty good idea, because I'm pretty sure we do, maybe take some proactive action to make sure that they don't have the ability to do something like that again. I'm not saying, to go and maybe, bring it up to YouTube who those people may be, but I'm saying, just make sure to keep people up to date and apprised with the kind of things that people are doing, violating YouTube guidelines and rules. But beyond that, we are back on air, and we are going to pick up right where we left off and continue on the stream like it was just the last one that happened like 5 minutes ago. And so, with that, we were on Hokey Redneck's super chat, and we were trying to get a clarification of what the super chat was. And so if Hokey Redneck is still here with us right now, hopefully we can get some more detail on what that super chat meant. Let's see. I don't see him in the chat yet. So we might have
Remember, we were actually moving on from it. I was waiting to see if he was going to put it in the chat, and I would add it to the spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, we were. So, just in case if Hokey Redneck is watching or is starting to watch right now, we are going to be moving on from that super chat, at least for the moment. And we'll be circling back to that when we get a clarification, because I want to make sure to answer the question, but sadly, I wasn't understanding how the question was asked. So if you want to give us a clarification, we will stop the entire stream whenever that clarification comes in. And so there he is, he's back. So as soon as we get that clarification, we will stop what we're reporting on and immediately circle back to answer that question. And I want to say, before we even try and move on, thank you so much for that unbelievable support, Hokey Redneck. That was your second super chat of the night, and an unbelievably massive one. It means a lot to us, because people like you help us to stay on air, even when the sick, evil people of the internet, who are nothing more than pro-Russian shills in disguise, there for views and money, want to see us disappear off of the internet. Folks like y'all who support this channel and help us keep this thing running ad-free and sponsor-free and allow our voices to be on air, make it possible for us to get a stream up and running once again right after the last one, and just keep on steamrolling forward like nothing has happened at all. Once again, I gotta say this, and I can't stress it enough, the Leaf Spring Army will never die, and I want to see LSAs in the chat, because we are going to be absolutely hammering forward with the stream tonight. Can I get a yeehaw, Matthew?
Yeah. Honestly, though, we've actually done pretty good, because it's been months since we've had a proper DDoS attack like that, and we actually had to change a few months back our IP address then as well, because the same thing happened. And it looks like we're going to do the same thing again, because for some reason, either we've clicked on a bad link, somebody's gotten it, we clicked on an email we shouldn't have clicked on, or something. But somebody's fished our IP and clearly gotten it, because we hadn't had that happen in months.
And we haven't had it happen in months, but the bastards ain't keeping us down, my boy. We're going to keep it running, my boy. But anyways, with that, I hope we get a clarification from Hokey Redneck soon, and we're going to be moving on into our frontline news in the meantime. And moving on up into the northeastern area, we have been able to hear that the Ukrainians are doing quite well, and we got to see that up here ourselves tonight, up in this area. Over the past 24 hours, let me make sure to update it, because the map usually gets updated right when I go live, and it did. Up here in the northeastern area, you wouldn't believe it, the Russians have not been able to advance an inch. Meanwhile, down in this area, you wouldn't believe it, but the Ukrainians are retaking ground. It doesn't look like they're losing, y'all. It doesn't look like it. That's crazy, because there are so many people out there who just love Ukraine, and they're people with all their hearts, but for some reason, just weirdly enough, they flipped the entire script recently to say that the Ukrainians are losing on all front lines, and then they're getting pushed back. But what's so bizarre is that pretty much everywhere, the Ukrainians are either holding their ground or even retaking some. So, that's a little bizarre, Matthew. And I'd have to say, that's really sick of people who say that kind of crap, considering that so many folks are fighting and dying on these front lines right now to either hold them or push them back. Really sick, and people like that ought to not be running YouTube channels. Does everyone agree with me? I hope y'all do. But moving on from that and into the area of Velika Visalok, we did get to see the life of a Russian soldier, at least a small glimpse into his life in the northern area. It's a little snowy.
Wow. Видать, недавно подбили, еще дымится. Еще дымит. Ёб твою мать. Мы сюда должны ехать на технике, блядь. Там впереди минные заграждения. А за ними хохол.
See him walking past a knocked out Ural 4320.
Горит до сих пор.
This one's Russian.
Недавно ебанули. Все распидорено. Это я понимаю. Тоже трупы. Техника. А как мы тут проезжать будем?
We hear them still munching their little feet through the snow.
Это которые на минах въебались. Вот один.
Oh, what's this? Why, this doesn't look like an APC. That looks like a main battle tank.
Заебись.
Come on, turn the camera around. Turn the dang it! He didn't. He did. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, they're running.
О, блядь.
Well, let's see. That's the tank they were near. It looks like some kind of a T-72.
Походу, сейчас обстрел будет, блядь. Вот такая хуйня. Фу. Растяжки. Еще и растяжки.
Вон посмотри,
Где?
вон растяжка.
See the Russians here. Apparently flabbergasted that the war zone's a war zone.
Пару слов вашим телезрителям.
Я
Как
ебал
вам?
в рот, нахуй, мы никуда не поедем. Последний нахуй, он уже Брэмы все, разъебали, а наши бэхи разлетятся в щепки, блядь.
We can see the young Lukashenko knockoff here giving a update on the situation. Very interesting.
А мы тут не проедем.
Чтоб понятно было, по этой дороге, вот где эта вся хуета разъебанная, мы должны проехать на БМП с пехотой вплотную к хохлам через минные заграждения, без саперов, без всей хуйни.
3 штуки.
Ёб твою мать, что это?
And we can see him here.
Всем адьос.
And that's the end of the clip, but giving y'all a little bit of a look at the life of one Russian soldier, at least some of them, up in the northern area, and giving y'all a look at how scared they are of nothing, because nothing happened in the whole clip, but they were scared. Really scared. But moving on from that and into our next clip just a little bit further south, we did get to see the Russians losing an excavator. And there we can see it, the excavator.
Wow.
And we can see the drone coming on in and hitting its target and blowing up the excavator.
This is almost as good as a Bobcat being destroyed, but not quite.
It's nice to see. I love to see it. But that's the end of the clips. But very nice to see. And also, really quickly, Hokey Redneck, if you would like, could you clarify your last super chat a little bit more? Just like give it a little bit more detail as to what the question was, because for some reason I didn't understand it, and I don't want to leave your question unanswered. So if you would like, please make sure to give a little bit more descriptive detail in the live chat on what the question meant, and we will circle back around as soon as we get that and answer that question. Because one, I hate that our stream got cut off, because there's nothing wrong on your end. Your internet's totally fine. We were DDoSed and our stream was taken off air because of that. It was pretty much an attack some people conducted over the internet by overloading our router and pretty much shutting it down due to a denial of service. But beyond that, if you do want to clarify your question, we will immediately circle back and make sure to answer it. But still, thank you so much for the massive support that you threw in on our last stream before we ran this one. And we still want to make sure to be able to get to that question and answer it. And so with that, we are now going to be moving on into our next bit of news outside of the Northeast and way further down towards the area of Avdiivka, a small town in the northern area of the Luhansk Oblast. Different than the Avdiivka that is the major city connected to the city of Donetsk. But moving on into this area, we did get to see a whole bunch of Ukrainian soldiers riding around on the field. Sounding I had to mute this, but it's just a compilation of Ukrainian soldiers just riding around doing their thing. We see artillery thudding around. We see a little firefight here. Nice little firefight.
Man, the Ukrainians fight different fires than the Russians fight. The Russians fight real ones and also the gun ones, but the Ukrainians don't really fight the real ones.
Oh, look, puppies. That's a little cute puppy. And a cat.
Cat.
And then, oh, a little cute doggy. And then this can of stuff. And then
That's
frozen.
Russian. It's Russian food. They're feeding it to the dogs.
Little mortar fire here and there.
A tank? Oh, 2 tanks.
Oh, a little cute dog. Oh, that was a precious one. I like that one.
Man, give that dog a bone. Bone one.
A hedgehog.
Oh, a hedgehog.
Doggy.
Uh-oh,
Cat.
poor scared dog.
Truck. People. Bomblets. Russians.
Man, that bomb went off next to that Russian, and he scratched his leg and said, something bit me.
Something bit me. But anyways, we see the Ukrainians shooting their AK-74. Very nice. And also, we got a explanation, I believe, Matthew, from Hokey Redneck in the chat. And it was 2 words, but it gave me enough context that we'll be able to get back around to answering the question. And, oh, a cute hedgehog. And then a drone view of the foggy fields of Ukraine, probably in the early morning hours. But that's the end of that clip right there. And moving back into addressing Hokey Redneck Super Chat, which got so rudely interrupted by a sick group of people on the internet who hate the channel and just want to cause chaos and disarray, pretty much. Hokey Redneck was asking a question about were we going to cover Gaza in the Middle East. And we've wanted to, but the problem with covering Gaza is that there's so little to talk about with that ongoing situation that it's hard to make any kind of a news segment out of it. Because, of course, our news here on YouTube, at least on this live stream, revolves around having video and picture evidence to cover along with our news and our statements that we're making. And the fact of the matter is that there isn't really any video or pictures that come out of the Gaza Strip showing us what's going on there, at least a very large amount to work with, that would give us an ability to make an entire news segment out of it. Now, every once in a while, we could do a special in the form of a YouTube video, though, where we make maybe like a 15-minute long video on what's been going on in the Gaza Strip over a period of time, or we could even try and do maybe a long-length documentary about the entire conflict, not just what's going on right now, but the conflict pretty much from the very beginning in 1947 all the way up until the present day. And we could try and do something like that. But it would be very tough to try and cover it as an individual news segment, just because on a daily basis, I try and see if it is possible to make one. But every day, there's only about 3 pictures and videos that comes out of the entirety of the Gaza Strip that we could use to make our news on. Meaning that most of our news, if we tried to make a segment on this, would be nothing more than hearsay and just kind of trust me bros. And we always want to make sure that when we run our channel, we're never working off of trust me bros, because that could start to take an easy propaganda spin. And I always want to make sure that whenever we try and present the news to y'all, we actually have picture and video evidence to back up everything we say, instead of just having y'all open a bank account on the Bank of Faith with my statements and believe everything I say with unwavering loyalty, which I never want y'all to do. I want y'all to always know that I'll have proof to back up what I'm saying in videos and pictures. And so with that, I hope that does address that very well, Hokey Redneck, because that was a very good question. And it's one that people have asked us on and off ever since we first covered that way back on October 7th when the hostilities began inside of Israel. And we've been trying to keep up with it the best we can. Usually the only time that we are able to really keep up with it is when there's larger activities happening inside of the Middle East. And y'all have seen that before as well back in the day. Whenever there's a major U.S. air campaign that is a massive event that we actually can cover, we usually try and also throw in some all of the video clips and pictures that we were able to get out of Israel during that time, both inside the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and even southern Lebanon, if there's any military actions that are happening in any of those areas. So with that, I hope that does address that well, the best I can, Hokie Redneck, and thank you so much once again for the unbelievable support. You are a channel legend and an old guard through and through, and I've just got to say that it is amazing to know that you're here with us tonight, and that you enjoy our news so much that not only do you want us to cover Ukraine, you want us to move on into other kinds of news topics, which we are planning on doing in the future, by the way. Do not be mistaken. We are going to hopefully expand here in the near upcoming months to cover all kinds of news around the world. We'll still make sure to have a Ukraine-centric news focus because it's the biggest and most important thing going on in the world right now, but we also will be covering other major things like happenings inside of Europe, maybe even trying to work with the US military or other militaries around the world to show you how their armed forces operates, or to give y'all insights onto interesting weapon systems that at least, you know, we can do without, you know, doing anything that would get us in trouble with a foreign government or with the US government. But still, hopefully that'll be the case. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But thank you once again, Ahoki Redneck, and I hope I was able to address that question finally fairly well after 2 whole streams of trying to answer it. And with that, we are now moving on from that area and on into northern Bakhmut, because we actually have a very interesting video that United 24 made today talking about the soldiers of Ukraine on the northern Bakhmut front line. And oh look, it's our stream right there, Matthew. The LSA will never die. Part 2. Nice.
Hey, look at that.
But here is the clip. Oh,
What? Was that really the explosion?
I have no idea. I think that may be clipped
And that
together.
sound was like nuclear.
Oh, and they got a PKP here.
І отак от. В укриття АГС працює.
After the capture of Avdiivka, the Russian army continues its assault on 5 strategic directions simultaneously, despite the unfavorable winter conditions. Most areas of the Ukrainian frontline can be described as hell on earth. It has already been 2 years since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and for most of the troops, war has become a routine part of life.
Man, that's how I want my gun wall to look, right there. Got the AK-74, the AK-74 with the suppressor.
You want the plywood on the wall too?
Hell yeah, man. I want that plywood.
That's expensive these days, you know.
Oh yeah,
We
really
want to see
expensive.
how the Ukrainian infantry cope with the challenges posed by winter and with the ongoing pressure from the enemy all over the front line. That's why it is just 7 a.m. and we are already on the run to the frontline positions in the Bakhmut direction.
So our most further positions are over there. Behind this hill is the channel. Behind the channel, a few meters away, are Russians.
Here by the channel, less than 1 kilometer away, is Kurdyumivka, a village south of Bakhmut, and it's actually north of Bakhmut, where the enemy is pushing now and trying to break the line to capture Chasiv Yar and Konstantinivka.
Man, they just got that bass running in the background. They just got that thing on idle.
There's movement. There are a lot of enemy bodies lying around already. Nobody's picking them up. Nobody.
This man is literally, his call sign is literally hamster. That, I find that kind of ironic because it's actually the Russians who are dying like hamsters. So I don't know where this guy is getting the name from, but still, it's pretty funny that his call sign is hamster.
Picking them up. Nobody wants them.
Hamster is a sailor from Kherson. He has already become accustomed to spending months away from his family due to his civil profession. After a couple of months in the trenches, he has grown used to the specifics of this location. The channel in front of us serves as a barrier against large-scale attacks from both sides, but does not prevent firearms skirmishes. And it's not just firearms here.
Man, just peeking the microphone on that
When we
thing.
were flying, we noticed that the enemy was making movements. They were trying to dig in. We will prevent them from digging in, prevent them from strengthening. So we're trying to make a little surprise for them. A good morning, infantry style. Here is the position. Check it out. We'll be working along the front edge, but it's 200 meters to the enemy. it's best to keep a low profile.
Keep a low one, Matthew.
Ninja is just 25 years old. He was born in the east of Ukraine and grew up to become a mine worker. These areas have been familiar to him since his childhood, but now he has some bigger toys to play with.
Avada Kedavra!
I'm just kind of doubting
Man,
that that's actually from
I'm not
that
gonna lie.
thing.
I want to call cap on that because that explosion sounded like a nuclear bomb going off, and that that view did not appear to be an RPG. That explosion was way too large for an RPG.
I'm not gonna lie, Matthew. That thing right there, the explosion sounded like one of those old-fashioned movie explosions where they throw a grenade and goes or something like that. Like, let's listen to that again. That is cap.
No, cap.
I'm sadly gonna call cap on that one because that does sound like a nuclear bomb. That does not sound like an RPG.
Look at the flash off of that thing. Like it's encompassing like a mile or something.
Dude, this thing right here. Hang on. Hang. This thing right here, according to United 24, and let me go get it, man. You're gonna know what you see. It's this thing. Oh my god, it's a freaking fat man from Fallout.
It sure is, man. It launched a nuke at that rate.
I don't know. I gotta be honest with you. I actually don't know what kind of a weapon this is. Maybe it's a flash, maybe. But even then, that explosion was a little nuts.
That's laughable, man.
Just instant vaporization.
It's like you telling me that guy just launched a mini nuke and he just turned and talked to the camera so calmly, like we just launched a small RPG into the distance. It's like no,
dude, they're just like we're gonna give him a little wake up call. Launches the damn Davy Crockett at him and blows him up.
See if it happens again.
See, that's what it really looks like. It's not some damn nuclear explosion. Jeez, man, like that was crazy. Second shot landed where it was supposed to. The first one actually just leveled the entire grid square. It just leveled the
really?
codes.
Why did you need to fire a second one, but the first one like leveled the ground?
Yeah, the second one hit the chart. What about the first one? The zip code's gone, so we don't have to worry about the first one. The second one, though, it was a little smaller.
At 18, I enlisted, served 7 months, signed a contract, and that's that. Take cover, the AGLs are working. That's the position we've been living in for 3 months now. And once every 6 days, we leave to take a shower, do the laundry, do our chores, and that's it. And we do it in shifts. We can go out now, actually.
Oh, now he's got an RPG.
Just one rest day, is it enough?
This is all crazy.
It's
It's as crazy as it can be. Like a squirrel in a wheel. My wife even came to visit me.
Oh?
We spent 3 days together, and I didn't even realize that I saw her.
The winter season is coming to an end in Ukraine, and preparations for the summer campaign are already underway. The men here dig in and attempt to disrupt the enemy's efforts to fortify their positions. Russian forces conclude this season on the offensive, yet it remains to be seen whether they have suffered enough setbacks for Ukraine to seize the initiative.
When spring arrives, the swamp begins.
Bro, he's got the bang energy drink and the cigarette. Someone get this man in the Marine Corps.
When everything dries up, that's when the action starts. From both sides.
Ну як ти думаєш, ми готові до весни чи літа?
I always believe we're ready. There's no other way to think. I have no doubts. The enemy is incredibly powerful, strong, evil, and cruel. They don't spare themselves. They won't spare us. These demons must be crushed. And no matter what, we'll stand our ground. It doesn't matter if it'll be better or worse this year. I don't care. I will continue to serve next year.
I'm launching a nuke. Get down. Hang on, guys. I just gotta quickly. Boom. It's all right. We're clear, everyone. We're clear for the next month. But anyways, it's time for us to move on from this little bit of news, because it's always nice to see the Ukrainian infantry north of Bakhmut doing their thing, and they do it incredibly well. But it's time for us to move a little bit further on down the lines and on towards Avdiivka. And oh, by the way, let's just make sure to take a look at Bakhmut and let's see if the front lines have changed. Well, it looks like the Russians have moved forward a little bit and now control half of Ivaniivsky, but beyond that, the Ukrainians are holding to the north and also holding to the south as well. One also has to remember that the Ukrainians did get pushed all the way back to the area around this highway here near Chasiv Yar and then retook all this ground. So once again, much like many Russian offensives, they're trying to reclaim former glory that they've lost and will never get back. But with that, we're now moving on from the Bakhmut area and on down into Avdiivka, and we're going to see what happened down in Avdiivka over the past 24 hours. Not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing.
Not a damn thing at all. And it tells you something. The folks out here who are telling you that Ukraine is lost and they're losing. And I've seen their name mentioned a few times in the channel chat tonight, Mandy. I don't know about you, but they're line shills that are pro-Russians trying to get you money and your view, so don't give them your views. And better yet, unsubscribe from them. That's probably a good thing to do as well. But moving on from that and on into the area of Avdiivka, we did get to see that the Ukrainians are now taking their turn hitting the Avdiivka coke plant today with some GBU-39s. Check this out. There's a hit. Can we get another one? Nope, actually we can't. That was too much to ask. We cannot get another one. But we did get one, so that counts for something. But anyways, moving on from that clip and on into our next one, we also got to see that a Bradley got hit today by a Lancet drone and shrugged it off and just kept driving. Real Chad-like move right here. And here comes the Lancet. And thank you so much, King of Kings. I hope you like it here better. But we can see it hitting the Bradley, and the Bradley just don't care. Does the crew bail out? No. Does the Bradley burn? Nah. It's all good. So it's fine. There's a small little fire, kind of like a structural fire over here on the side of the Bradley. But beyond that, that fire is actually on the opposite side of the Bradley. So it's actually something flammable burning on the side of the Bradley. It's not going to create a burnout where the vehicle just goes up in flames and is destroyed. But moving on from that little bit of news and on into our next one near Tenenke, we did get to see the 3rd Brigade continuing their fight around Avdiivka.
Вот, перестрелку с нормальными мужиками. Пошли, пошли, пошли! Давай, давай, давай! Давай, парни, туда! Все будет охуенно, доверь. Когда он кинет. Назад, да, быстро! Давай, забирай назад, забирай.
See them getting into a little bit of a firefight here. Oh! Get him!
Пидор! Нет, нормально классно, бро. Дай, Зама, не переживай, калаху, пусти. Кубик на тому же РПГ-никах, ебе! Что? Крыю.
We see them now setting up the machine gun. Oh! We got ourselves some Verdun happening here.
Let them have it.
Надо +1. Блять, помогите.
Поможи ему, блядь.
Давай, братан.
Погоди, вот эту хуйню. Держи вот эту.
Держу.
Все. Сука. Погоди, давай вот эту нахуй скину.
Ну давай, вылазь, братан.
And we see this guy here is actually pinned under some rubble, and they're getting him out.
Держу.
Левую достань.
Все,
Я левую не достану и правую.
Так.
Левую достань.
Вылазь.
Левую достань.
Заебись.
Левую сначала перестал.
Хорош.
Здесь автомат.
Вот он лежит. Под тобой прям. Под тобой.
And that's the end of the clip right there, but giving us a little bit of a look at the actions of the 3rd Brigade as they continue on their fight around the Avdiivka area quite heroically, and continuing to hold the line flat and solid, just like we've been saying here on this channel for a while, and much like it shows in real life. With that, we're now going to be moving on to our next bit of news, where we also got to see that apparently a T-62A was lost in frontline action today near the area of Tenenke. This is a picture from a Ukrainian drone showing a T-62A main battle tank introduced into Russian service in 1962, destroyed on the battlefield with no ERA armor. This is the first time we've ever seen one of these tanks in this specific variant being destroyed due to frontline action. And this is something very interesting. It's showing once again that the Russians are running out of war materials, and they're not even able to refurbish and get their tanks running at a proper rate, like, for example, even trying to modernize the T-62 into a T-62M. They're sending them out there as they would have been seen in the mid-1960s to be destroyed on the battlefield at this point due to the overwhelming lack of tanks, or at least modern tanks. Moving on from that bit of news and towards Vidyane, we also got to see the Russians getting hit by a Shtupna. We're going to be muting that, but we can see the Russian tank on the move. And we see them continuing to hit Russian vehicles. We see them knocking out pretty much the entire column right here. And just continuing to just dish it out to the Russians with these glorious Stugnas, a famous weapon from times of old.
To launch switch on combat operation. Always remember to flip on combat mode when you're firing your weapon, folks. Don't forget.
As opposed to casual mode, which is just used for fun.
Boys, we're putting the Stugna in sport today. Damn.
Hey, I mean, there's a lot of them. Switch that thing into sport. It's click. Anyways, moving on from the Avdiivka area and down towards Novomykhailivka, which, by the way, I have to show you all this down here. Take a look at these apples. It appears that the Russians have been able to make marginal frontline advances into Novomykhailivka over maybe 200 yards today, but beyond that, the Ukrainians still hold the village of Novomykhailivka. Beyond that, we are seeing that the Russians tried to uproot some Ukrainian forces from the town today by dropping Fab 500 glide bombs on them, but we know that this is unsuccessful. The Ukrainians are still... All right, well, we're not getting copyrighted tonight. We're going to mute that, but we can see the Fab 500s hitting the very edge of the town right here. And you know what's crazy, Matthew? You know what's insane? Just absolutely
What's
nuts.
that?
There have been a brand new 150 new subscribers that have joined us in between the last stream and this one, as of right now.
Man, they're all coming from my video, man. I just checked.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh, my Lord!
I've made it, mama. I've made it.
We made it in a big city now, boy.
It is crazy though. Like we went from 160, we had 163, I think, midday today, and now we're up to like 163, 250. So, you know, it's crazy, man. It's like 3 videos, and we'll be like up to 165 in no time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We'll be up to 200,000 before y'all know it, and 250,000 not that much long after.
And y'all know what that means. More people on the stream means more people donating to Ukraine.
And more people who are a part of the Least Spring Army and continuing on the cause, which is great to know. But with that, that's the end of that clip. And of course, while the Russians are trying to drop those fabs, they're not getting fabulous results. They call me a 1990s news reporter because I'm throwing in the puns. But moving on from that and all the way down into the Krinky area, we also got to see some Ukrainians dropping some mines on the roads.
Газон. Первый выезд, первая боевая потеря. Колесо оставили на позиции, еле вырвались. Вот такую штуку.
Look at that. It's a caltrop. It is a modern-day caltrop meant to deflate the tires of Russian trucks and deflate the hopes of the Russians, counting on the logistics forces.
Которые вытащили. А так 2 Урала без колес. И 66-й без колес сегодня пришел.
And they got the tire.
Вот так работаем, ребята. Вот наш боевой конек. Наш спаситель. 2 выезда, 2 колеса потеряли. Вот, разбрасывают прямо на дороге.
Look at him, he's like, this damn thing trapped in the street blew up the tire.
А машины приходят со спущенными колесами до сих пор. То есть их там разбросано до хера. Все диски похороненные. Все запаски подобрали. Все, так.
I like how he's making a whole event out of this situation. It's like it popped your tire. Come on, move on.
Дорогие ребята.
Can you believe this thing popped our tire? It's sharp. It popped my tire. Can you believe that? I'm just outraged by this. Can you believe it? In a war zone, they're trying to pop our tires. Can you believe it?
Dude, he sat there and made that into a TikTok video. This is the most shocking brand new implement of the Ukrainian military in the entire war.
Yes, he
Recently,
did.
the Ukrainians
He's
have tried to
clickbait.
reinvent the modern caltrops. Or better yet, you know, if he was trying to clickbait, he would put his ugly mug on a thumbnail and go, "Aw, man, Ukrainians losing everywhere. Aw, man," you know, some stupid crap like that.
No, man, that's like repelling like clicks. Like when you do that,
Yeah,
it's like the opposite. You're not
actually
clickbaiting. People are like clicking away.
Yeah, funnily enough, in an attempt to try and gain more subscribers and try and make more money, you end up losing subscribers and making less money. Kind of odd. And also, that's a really bad way to run a channel, chasing money and subscribers instead of just doing it because you care. That's a little bit odd. And in case y'all are wondering, what in the hell are we talking about? There's a specific person that many of y'all have been referencing in the chat. We call him the hot dog man. He's like the
Hot dog boy.
Yeah, hot dog boy. Yeah, he's not even worthy of being called a man. He's more of a hot dog manlet or a hot dog boy. But beyond that, hot dog boy recently decided to approach us over Twitter and get involved in a DM battle and pretty much told us, which it was crazy to me because the guy has pretty much tried to call us scammers and in it for the money pretty much over the entire war. The guy pretty much laid out to us on his own yesterday that he's only into covering the war in Ukraine or doing anything on YouTube for money and views, and that's it. Literally just pointed that out to us and just said and sat there and just acted like an immature idiot behind the scenes, and then said we were obsessed over him when he was the one who DM'd us, and we didn't even care. Like, I just didn't. But beyond that, I gotta say, kind of interesting, you know? And I gotta say, the guy really knows how to lose some subscribers. He's lost 300 over the past week. I like it. Put an LSA in the chat if you like it too. But moving on from that and into the area of Odesa, we did get to see a Project 205 patrol boat sailing around the northern area of the Black Sea near Odesa on patrol. Some beautiful pictures came out. And I gotta say, it is nice to see the Ukrainian Navy, you know, pretty much a non-existent Navy, weirdly enough, out there on patrol and making sure to try and keep the shipping lanes clear to Odesa. But with that, we are now moving on from that little clip of news and out of the Odesa area and on into Sevastopol, because we did get to see the Ukrainians hit Crimea today. I didn't just put that in the title in the first stream for nothing. Here it is. Couldn't see much, I know, but it was apparently an attack, and that's what we're running with. But with that, it is now time for us to move on from Crimea and on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 737 of the war in Ukraine. And so, without further ado, Here is the speech. It looks like he's in an airport, which is pretty funny because he's talking about brand new jets. So here is the speech. Speech!
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці і українки. Сьогодні ми в Харкові. Візит Марка Рюте, прем'єр-міністра Нідерландів. Разом з ним відвідали наших воїнів. Хлопці відновлюються після поранень. Мав честь подякувати їм, відзначити державними нагородами. Я вдячний кожному лікарю, усім нашим медичним працівникам, які рятують життя. Це найпочесніша робота. Разом з Марком пройшлися Харковом, місцями влучань російських ракет, звичайні будинки розбиті, зруйнована міська інфраструктура. Важливо додати Харкову безпеки. З усіма лідерами працюємо, щоб посилити ППО і тут, і для інших наших міст. Світ має такий потенціал, і потрібна достатня спільна рішучість, щоб російський терор програв. Сьогодні є новий пакет військової підтримки для наших воїнів від Нідерландів. До речі, Нідерланди активно допомагають нам із ППО, із коаліцією F-16. В цьому році нові винищувачі, вони будуть у нашому небі. І цей рік маємо зробити результативним у захисті від російських керованих авіабомб, від російських літаків, від їх ракет. Головком Олександр Сирський, командувач повітряних сил Оліщук, міністр оборони Умєров провели спеціальний військовий брифінг для Марка Рюте щодо ситуації на фронті зараз, щодо наших можливостей в активних діях та у захисті на конкретних напрямках. Звичайно, говорили і саме щодо Харкова. Я вдячний за готовність Нідерландів допомагати і надалі. Підписали з Марком двосторонню безпекову угоду між нашими державами, безпекові гарантії, безпекове співробітництво. Це вже 7-та така безпекова угода з партнерами, сильна угода, і є конкретний обсяг військової підтримки на рік – 2 мільярди євро. Є всі деталі нашої спільної роботи і в оборонній сфері, і в політиці, і для досягнення справедливості. Нідерланди підтримують необхідність створення спеціального трибуналу щодо російської агресії. Підтримують нашу роботу і в Україні, і з партнерами щодо притягнення до відповідальності усіх російських воєнних злочинців та посилення санкцій проти Росії за війну. І це сьогодні дійсно сильний візит. Я вдячний і Марку особисто, і усьому народу Нідерландів за підтримку України. І вже підготували активну міжнародну роботу. На березень буде більш підтримки, готуємо нові безпекові угоди, будуть нові домовленості щодо зброї для наших воїнів. Ключове – те, що Росія повинна втрачати, а наша країна, наші партнери – відновлювати безпеку. Все для цього робимо. Я дякую всім, хто допомагає. Слава Україні!
And with that...
Nice airport.
Yeah, nice airport. But with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 737 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And it's time for us to move on into that second segment of the stream, the part that y'all all enjoy, where we get to talk to all of y'all about everything y'all want to talk about. Everything goes in this segment. But nevertheless, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so we have one poll left to address, and that poll says the Ukrainian soldier that filmed the UFO in Ukraine speaks out and called the object real and concerning. He also said it was as big as the Empire State Building, and it was hot as fire. And what are your thoughts? 44% said the UFO was probably real. 27% were unsure about the whole thing. 16% said the soldier's probably just confused. And 13% said, it sounds maybe like a foreign weapon of some sort. And, you know, to be that large and that hot, I'm not sure if that's a weapon that we're familiar with. I'm not really sure what that was, to be honest with you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I want to make that clear. I'm not someone who goes around saying, oh, the aliens are in the government and all this other stuff. You know, if you want to think that, that's fine, but I don't think that's the case. I would say it's something that we can't explain, but I'm not ready to really say what it could be. I don't think it's really aliens, but at the same time, I really can't explain it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, I don't know what the hell it is. But honestly, it doesn't really have any impact on anything, regardless of what it is. Like, to be honest, we haven't seen it get actively involved. It's not really doing anything. It's not really harming anyone. Just let the thing be, you know? It's a giant hot object the size of the Empire State Building just hovering over the fields of Ukraine. I mean, you know, that's nothing really to worry about too much. At least
big.
Yeah, it's big. but honestly, nothing really that I'd worry about, in my opinion, you know, because it hasn't done anything. It just kind of was there. It kind of disappeared. If it was a UFO, that's kind of cool. If it wasn't a UFO, and it was probably just a glitch, and, you know, it doesn't matter. It didn't really impact anything. That's my opinion on it. You know, and if UFO, I'm just saying this, y'all, my stance on aliens is if they do exist, and if they just happen to show up and just look at everyone every once in a while, not really that big of a thing to even focus on or worry about. I mean, yeah, they're out there somewhere, but if they're not messing with us, then not really much of a thing for us to focus on. If they were messing with us, so then that's something to focus on. But they aren't.
But they are messing with us.
What do you mean, man? They're messing with our minds? What do you mean?
They're messing us up, man. We're trying to watch the war clips and the things getting in the way. It's in the sky and it's distracting us. I'm trying to watch the Russians get hit.
Just send the hot dog man to make a hit piece on them. I'm sure they'll vaporize half the planet.
No.
You know?
if there are aliens down here, we need to protect the aliens' minds because their brain cells are valuable just like everyone else's, and the hot dog man is going to absolutely turn them into mush. We don't need to let the hot dog boy get a hold of him whatsoever, the aliens. So, you know, if you see an alien, you know, don't recommend the hot dog man. In fact, tell the alien, if anything, unsubscribe because that ain't gonna do you any good watching that.
Also, another thing that they would probably do is that they probably deal with the stupid idiot. The stupid idiot will want to be a guest on whatever shows they kind of have, and they probably just politely decline, and then he'd make hit pieces on him, and then, you know, he would lose like another 200, 300 subscribers because of that. But beyond that,
and then when the aliens block Hot Dog Boy because they're like, this guy's a nutcase, like I'm blocking him to get the hell away from him, then he's going to go on a crusade that he got blocked by the aliens and how evil they are that they blocked him because they were harassing them.
Yeah. And also, you got to remember, Matthew, the victim complex. This guy would reach out to them, you know, personally, reach out to them, and then they go, we don't really want to talk to you. We think we're good. And then that guy would go, why the hell do they keep attacking me? You know, or some crap like that. It's like, nobody cares. Like, it's like nobody wants to talk to you. I don't.
Man,
like,
if aliens watch his ass, they'd be sitting over there going, what are these weird moaning rituals this human is going into over here going,
you see, back in the day, man, that worked kind of like a cartoon power-up. That was kind of like working on getting the suction going through his nose so that way he could snort another line. You know, he'd go, aww, and then he'd get on to the rest of the day or whatever. But
man, stop moaning.
Man, I'm telling you what. And also, Hokey Redneck, we're not in a pissing contest with him. He just won't stop talking about us. And also, probably the reason why what happened earlier happened. But with that, with the stream getting cut off and everything. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and that was our only poll to address. So we are moving into our super chat questions once again. And our first one goes to Richard Ager, who throws in a $70 donation. And thank you very much, Richard, for that very generous support as well. He says, I mucked it up the first time, but great work as always, gents. And I'm still here. And I haven't heard the latest on your law school challenge. Are you striking the balance? And yes, we struck the balance quite well. We found a perfect balance. He says, you both seem to have a lot of energy now and would love to hear and see a video on Gaza with historical context. And Richard, this is going to be a bombshell because you probably haven't heard based on the super chat here, but we've actually decided to move on from law school, and we've been out of it for about a month now, and we are so much better off being out of it after a month. And so much more happier as well, by the way. So we struck a perfect balance. I like this balance. But Enforcer, what say you?
Richard, we were battling to figure out that balance. And one day I got out of a class that I absolutely hated. And I went and sat down in the law school library. And I sat there and for about 30 minutes, and I just didn't type anything. I just sat there. And then finally, I just had enough. I looked over to the person that was sitting next to me. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I literally just closed my laptop, put it into my book bag, got up, and walked out. And on the way out, I remember someone was like, "Oh, where are you going? You going to leave?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really feeling like it today. I'll see you around." And then I just walked on out, got in my car, left, and never went back. Emailed him like I think a day later, and just told the dean, I was like, "I'm dropping out. I'm sorry, I'm not doing this anymore." And some people would say that we paused law school to make it sound a little more not so like I guess abrasive, but no, the truth is that we just dropped out. I couldn't stand it. I hated it. It was not for me. I've already gotten a bachelor's degree in history, and that was good enough for me. I don't need to become an attorney. Being an attorney isn't the greatest thing on earth. It's great for some people, and that's great for them, but for me, it's not going to be the greatest thing on earth. I certainly have other passions beyond law school to pursue that I think I'll do fine with. And I'll still be able to make my political aspirations possible for trying to be the president other ways, because you don't have to be an attorney to try and become the president.
And I've also got a bachelor's degree too. I've got one in political science and foreign affairs. Doesn't that count for something?
That does! But beyond that, I hope that does address that well, Richard. That was the kind of balance we struck. We just axed it, and that we had a perfect balance. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that quite well. And I don't know what is going on in the live chat, Matthew, before we even move on to the next one. But for some reason, everyone keeps on talking about ADHD. I don't know what it is, because some people, it started like 20 minutes ago, and I've been seeing it going on for a while now. I don't know what brought it up, but someone just said you have to have ADHD to be able to run the stream and look at the live chat. Probably so. That's something more of a skill that we kind of picked up on as we went, is being able to do everything all at the same time, because it is really difficult, like the amount of mental focus that everything takes running simultaneously. But you get used to it, and it eventually becomes just a part of your daily routine. But with that, I hope that just kind of covers the ADHD thing well, because I don't know what's going on in the live chat about that, but I keep seeing it, so I feel like it would probably be good to mention it and notice it at least for a second. But with that, thank you so much once again for support, Richard. I hope we addressed that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to, while I reorganize the spreadsheet here, it's going to go to Hokey Redneck, who throws in a $50 donation once again, and that is Hokey's third super chat of the night. So, Hokey, you are an absolute legend tonight. You're carrying the channel, and thank you very much for that support. He says, "Who stopped doing it first, and what did your mom think?" And to be honest with you, I was more worried about what my dad thought about it, to be perfectly honest with you. It wasn't a sudden thing. We were kind of like getting the feeling that this really wasn't for us. Like probably 2 or 3 months in, I was like, I don't think this is really my interest, because I can't get myself motivated to get into this. And every day I'm showing up and listening to lectures, I'm thinking in my mind, I'd rather be literally anywhere right now rather than here. And the subject matter that's being discussed doesn't interest me in the slightest. And I'm like, why am I here? And that's when I was like, I think I'm letting myself be guided by money at this point. I think I'm going through this whole process thinking, well, I can make a ton of money at the end of the road, but I'm going to be unhappy as hell. And to me, it's more important to be happy. Obviously, you have to make money. That's important as well, but you don't want to be miserable in what you're doing either. And I saw myself about to go down a very dark path of misery, and I wasn't willing to take it. So I was the first one to say, I'm going to call it quits here. And luckily, my parents were very understanding about that, because I can understand how that could be worrisome. But they're confident in both me and the Enforcer's abilities to get things done no matter what we do. So they were pretty supportive in the whole process. And we're very confident as well. That's why we are feeling good at this point about the decision, because we know that whatever we put our minds to, it will succeed. And it just simply takes a lot of work to get it done. And we're willing to put the work into no matter what we do. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would say that Matthew was the first one to stop. Because the thing is that I hate quitting anything at all. Even if I hate it, I hate quitting it. So I sat there and tried to go along with it even after Matthew dropped out. Because Matthew dropped out, I think, about a day or two before I did. And after he dropped out, I was like, yeah, it's kind of going that way. But the thing is that when we were kind of considering dropping out, this is something that was going on behind the scenes for about a week or two before we actually made the decision, really ever since the beginning of law school, but really the last 2 weeks was the most intense part of it. It was kind of it was an ongoing conversation with our mom, our dad, and ourselves and and everyone that we could talk to about it, and we were trying to figure out what would be the best thing to do. And our dad has been an attorney for 30 years, literally 30 years, 3 decades, 10 years longer than, well, 8 years longer than I've been alive. He's been an attorney. And when we were getting around to that very end where we actually did drop out, our dad just kind of dropped a truth bomb on us. He was like, I've been doing this for 30 years, and looking back on it, I think I actually would have picked to do something else if I could have. This is a very combative kind of a career. It's a very combative kind of a world. It's not necessarily fun. It's incredibly stressful, and I'd, recommend that maybe y'all look into something else. And so we were like, oh, okay. And so, with that in mind, and the blessing of both of our parents on whatever decision we make, even if we continue to go on, they supported, we decided that we were going to drop out and move on. And it's not a terrible thing. Honestly, I'm very happy I did, because I absolutely hated being in law school. It was horrendous. Law
school zapped the soul out of me. Like for the let's see, we did a whole semester, and the first semester I actually came out with pretty good grades. In the first semester, I came out with B's pretty much across the board. And for law school first semester, that's not that bad. Anywhere else, I'd be like, it's not that great for what I'm trying to do. But law school not bad. But even coming out with grades and putting my effort into it and actually doing decent at it, I was like, this is not for me. Like I could easily like get through law school and put my mind to it and probably come out with B's or come out with honors or something, just like we did in college. But I'm like, I just can't force myself to do this. It's the only thing in my life I've ever come across. I'm like, I just cannot force myself to go. And it was a bad feeling. Like I literally had a hard time getting up to go to law school. I never felt that way in college. Never felt that way working jobs anywhere, anytime like that. That really just was not for us, really.
Yeah, and another thing is to be entirely honest, another thing that really came in bigly for me, was that I actually love doing this way more than I've loved doing anything else. Matthew can tell you, because he's my older brother, so he's been around longer than I've been around, but this is literally just what I do. Like, I hardly talk normal stuff. Like, how did the football game go? Or, what's your favorite drink? Or where do you like to hang out? Do you like to take long walks in the park? Or whatever the hell normal people talk about. I'm a little weird. I just talked about this stuff my entire life growing up. You can ask Matthew. It actually has been to the point that they are tired of hearing about it outside of YouTube, because I've talked about it my entire life growing up. And I've always wanted to just talk about this kind of stuff. And what's crazy is that not only do I get to talk about it on here, but it is actually my job to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. It's my actual passion. It's something that I love doing. And that was something that really made it difficult for me to even go to law school in the first place. And I think my dad kind of was picking up on that before I even went to law school, is that I knew that I wasn't really that invested in. That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting. Sure, I'm always interested in everything. But it wasn't really exactly what I was wanting to do anymore, because I just love doing this. And I remember, Matthew, you were there for those conversations. Our dad would be like, do you really want to go to law school? Like, I don't think you really do. And I'd be like, yeah, I do. And then in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, I don't really know. I wanted to, but I didn't really know, like, with 100% certainty, yeah, I'd want to go. And as law school went on, I certainly found out that was not what I wanted to do. But our mom, honestly, is the most, even though our dad was kind of the one to be like, you know what, y'all don't have to do this if you don't want to. In fact, I kind of encourage y'all not to. Our mom is actually the one who's happiest with the decision, Hokey Redneck. She is the one who's like, yep, y'all seem a lot happier. Y'all should be doing what makes y'all happy in life. Not something that you think, will set you off well in life. And I completely agree with that. Life is a very, very short thing when you really think about it, especially once you get over growing up and you finally graduate high school. You realize that time passes so fast. It's been 4 years since I've graduated from high school. It's been 5 years for Matthew, and those 4 years for me have flown by so fast that it feels like it would have been just a year or even 8 months of time inside of high school or as a kid growing up. And when you think about that, you really have to do something that does make you happy, something that really is your passion, more so than something you think will set you up in life. Because if you hate your job, even if it is a well-paying job, if you hate it, you're not going to be happy in life, and you've wasted your entire life living in misery, instead of doing something that you actually feel has a purpose and makes you happy in life. And that's what we prioritized in our decision-making. And so I hope that does address that well, Hokey Redneck, and I hope that also answers what our mom thought. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope I was able to address that very well, because sometimes people still have not heard that we dropped out of law school. That was, I think, a month and over a little bit of a month ago. But I hope that gives an answer to some people who didn't know that we had done that yet. And I don't like to sugarcoat things. Some people will say we put law school on hold. Some people are going to say we are going to try and find ourselves. No, I dropped out. Like that's what it is. It is what it is, and that's the honest, brutal truth. We dropped out and just gave up on it. And also the other thing is that Matthew, my grades were okay. They weren't great, because honestly I prioritized this a lot more, so I came out with pretty much all C pluses, which by most measures is still good, but it's not the greatest. But Matthew came out with all B's, and I think even an A here and there.
No A's, but I did come out with pretty much all B's across the board, which was decent. There were some people in there that made higher, obviously, because it's graded on a scale, but you know, that's what's crazy to me, really. Like, it doesn't matter if you can like succeed in it. Like, I could have succeeded in the whole thing, and we both could have eventually if we put our minds to it. And that's ultimately why the whole month was taken off when I was gone. Was I was thinking I have to put my mind into this whole thing and go all in into law school, or otherwise I'm not gonna be able to get myself motivated. But I found even after calling off doing the stream every night, I was even in a worse shape going to law school than I was even doing the stream and being sleep deprived going to it. I was even in a worse shape, because then I was conscious, trying to go through the misery. I was actually like fully conscious. I was thinking I was better off being somewhat out of it going to law school. I'm like, this is really bad. And I'm like, okay, this isn't getting any better. It's getting worse. And that's why I was like, after another month of that misery, I was like, this is it. I can't go anymore. I'm done. And then shortly afterward, the enforcer followed suit.
Yeah, and another thing I'm seeing, someone said in the chat, let's see here, hang on, Marcia Tucker said, a lot of people have turned YouTube into careers, and are able to do amazing things. And yeah, people have done that, but the thing is with my YouTube channel, I never looked into making this a career, unlike other people, unlike really everyone else who is in our category who did look into this as a money-making venture and a career. I more so looked into it as being something to do for fun. And I started off the channel that way, you know, trying to do current events and reporting way back in 2021. And as the months went by, I went and turned into a gaming channel, trying to do it for fun. And then finally, I did the Ukraine war news, really to help out a friend over there. And then it ended up blowing up and turning into something entirely else that I didn't even expect. Luckily, it did turn into a business because, of course, living ain't free, because I would have to work somewhere, you know, and make money and pay bills. And that's what we do with this channel. But that was never really the intended idea with the channel at the start. But now that we pretty much just had a giant blessing dropped in our laps with an incredible community, an amazing channel, and people who really love what we do and love the way we cover and talk about things here on this channel, now it is starting to shift kind of in that direction where we love to create a massive kind of a news reporting, or more so just content platform that talks about all kinds of things. And I think that would be great. But nevertheless, I got to thank you all so much once again for all supporting us when we made that decision. That was incredible to see. And I'd love to know that people prioritize what makes folks happy in life more so than what would make one most successful. Because success is really just a personal metric. There's no such thing as success. Success is an arbitrary thing that people just define in their minds as being a certain kind of a threshold or a certain kind of a goal. But really, to each and every person, success is something entirely different depending on where they're from, their circumstances. And I feel like, as far as I'm concerned in life, I've already succeeded. I've already pretty much won at what I was looking for, because the one thing that I find to be an incredibly high honor is that this channel, and largely specifically my battle analysis, was apparently good enough that we ended up getting a mention in General Petraeus' book. I never even believed that at this point in my life I would have been able to do something that would have been so impressive that a general would specifically mention this one YouTube channel alone in their book as being a revolutionary news source about the war. That's something that I never thought I would see in my life. And to get that kind of accreditation really just makes me think, you know what? I pretty much won already as far as the YouTube thing goes. We're not the biggest channel. We're not the most viral channel. We're not the most successful channel as far as being like a money machine like Mr. Beast or something like that. But to me, in my mind, none of that matters. What matters is I've done something that has had a big enough impact that it is noticed by folks like General Petraeus, which is incredibly cool to me. And yes, Hokey Redneck, he is a 4-star general and was a former director of the CIA, as well as the commander of CENTCOM for 2 years. He was also heavily involved in the invasion of Iraq from 2003, I believe, to 2009. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. But I want to make sure we're able to get on to other super chats. I see so many questions coming in the live chat that I'd love to answer. But we want to make sure to get on to the super chats so that way we can get on into the live chats themselves and then keep things rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Jesus UCSB, the longtime channel legend. He throws in a 50, and Jesus, we appreciate that support very much. And also, it's good to still have you back. He says, "Hola, enforcers, we need to hold the lines. And just like Maximus and Gladiator, the LSA never quits. And you hear me, we are tankers. We never quit. We never quit. And Slav Ukraine.
And Slav Ukraine. And we never quit, Jesus. We never quit. And thank you so much for the support, Jesus UCSB. And I gotta say, we do hold the line. I meant tonight, watching that DDoS happen live, I said, damn it, we're running this stream again. I don't even care. Like, I didn't care how many viewers came on. And honestly, a lot of y'all came on. There was 2,400 of y'all here at the peak on part 2 of the stream. None of y'all even get notified for this one. It just pops up and people who are paying attention hop in. And that's incredible to see that so many people did come back. In the Lee Spring Army never quits. The Lee Spring Army will never die. No one's going to beat us down. No one's going to beat us out of this ring. We're going to stay here and continue to cover this news because unlike everyone else who does this, I actually care. I'm not here to sit there and talk about, oh, you know, I didn't make enough money on Twitter. I made $16. Like, it's not about the money. It's not about the views. It's not about any of that. This is about doing what I like to do. And I love to do this. This is like I was just saying a second ago, is the thing I'm the most happy doing. I sit down here each and every day. This doesn't even feel like a job. This feels like something it's my passion and I love doing. And I got to thank you so much, Jesus, for still being here with us. Still being our LSA tanker from Vilseck, Germany, way back in the day. And thank you so much for being a massive part of the Lee Spring Army and helping the Lee Spring Army's flag to continue to flutter bravely in the breeze and to continue to show the rest of the world that no matter what happens to this community will never die. The Lee Spring Army will always survive. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Barry Woodward, who throws in a $51 donation, and thank you, Barry, as well. He's a longtime channel viewer also. He says, hey, LSA, you are in the presence of a stream of reality. And he says, where do you stream something more real than here? From here to 2040, let's stay LSA strong and Slava the free world.
And Slava the free world, and God bless America, Slava Ukraine, and really long live the Western Sphere, and also, thank you so much for that massive amount of support, Barry Woodward. Folks like you make this thing possible. And I gotta say, thank you so much for wanting to be here with us until 2040. We will be here probably until 2040. I'm gonna have no doubt about that at this point. We probably both will be. Matthew's very dedicated to this. He absolutely loves it. I love it. Everyone loves it. Y'all love it. It's nothing but a channel to live. Maybe that sounds bad, but nevertheless, I do thank you so much for the support. And we will stay LSA strong until the very end. And so thank you so much once again. And thank you, Barry Woodward, for being an old guard of the channel. And I hope I was able to address that quite well. I feel like we're almost going into a hype segment right now, Matthew. It's like the pre-game hype segment. We're like, we're gonna win, damn it! Like it's just every single super chat's that. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And also someone said, how old are y'all? Or how old are y'all apart since you're brothers? And we're about 18 months apart or so. I'm about a year older than the Enforcer, so just barely older, but we're pretty close to being the same age. Barely, just barely. But anyways, our next one is going to go to Ari Soini, the Kiwi wife and Finn, who puts in a $22 donation and says, thank you for the continued great news coverage in LSA.
And thank you, Kiwi Wife and Finn, for still being here with us and still enjoying this news coverage, because we're not out, baby! We're still going! And we're still growing, actually, as a matter of fact. We have 163,250 subscribers here with us right now. as we're running this channel. That is incredible to think that so many people love the Lee Spring Army and love the channel. And I got to thank you so much, Ari Sweeney, for being here with us still 2 years later and still being proud of this channel and what we've all been able to accomplish, even as brand new people by the hundreds come in every single day. Thank you so much once again, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Panama Floyd, who puts in 820. And thank you, Panama, as well. He says, "Oi, my check arrived." Check one from the chat.
Hey, his check arrived! Oh! But still, thank you for the support, and thank you for helping this channel keep on running. The check has indeed arrived, and the Eagle has landed. And we will make sure to take a live chat question as well. And so with that, what do we got?
In the live chat question is going to go to Nishoba, who says, "It looks to me like there is a Russian underground working behind the scenes inside of Russia, and what do y'all think?"
Absolutely. We've actually been covering that here and there throughout the war for the past 2 years. There is a very big partisan movement inside of Russia. Their actions are usually mundane looking, but are heavy hitting, like destroying railway signal boxes. That is actually a very serious thing, and it really massively impacts Russian logistics, because most of their logistics are conducted by railroad. So going off of that, there is actually a huge underground scene inside of Russia, and they've been doing some very heavy hitting actions for 2 years. They still are right now. It's just that we don't really cover it much because a lot of people don't really know the significance of destroying railroad equipment. So when I show someone throwing a Molotov into a signal box over and over and over and over and over and over and over, no one really gets how big of a thing that is, but it's huge. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that quite well indeed. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 20 from Herberg, who says, "Thank you for the amazing work, and it's really appreciated."
And thank you, Herberg, for enjoying this channel, and thank you for enjoying the work. It's always greatly appreciated to know that folks like you appreciate the work that we put into this channel, both in these streams and in the videos we make each day, because it really does mean a lot to us that y'all love what we're doing. And so thank you so much once again, Herberg. I hope that does address that well, and thank you for being a part of this Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Ninja Machinist 89B, who puts in a 20 and says, "You guys seem to have some more pep now, and love it." And take a question from the chat. LSA. I'm telling you what, Ninja, we have so much pep at this point, you can call us the Pep Boys, who's right here changing that oil, if you know what I mean. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support. You're absolutely right. We're a lot more hyped up. But I don't know why I had to go crazy there, but still, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for saying that it's much more enjoyable and we sound a lot more hype. I honestly am, because I'm getting sleep. That's crazy, right? Like, you know what's actually kind of disturbing to me, Matthew, is I was getting so little sleep through law school that I can't even really remember anything about law school, because it was all just a blur. It was like one giant multi-month long day because I was getting no sleep. So I don't
Same here. I was going to sleep almost in class. I was so sleep deprived. Literally, I'm not even exaggerating. We were each getting like barely 4 hours a night, like every single night. And that's really unsustainable. Like, if you have to do that for whatever job anyone out there is working, I really feel for you. Like, I know the doctors have schedules that like really crunch their time like that. I don't even have a clue how they operate, because doing that for 4 months or 5 months, that was nearly like killing us.
I believe it was almost killing me, because I can't really remember what happened over that period of time. I can't really remember the streams, the law school, what any of the law school really even looked like beyond like orientation. Like, I remember orientation, but after that, everything just turned into a blur of just things melded together. And I just remember absolutely nothing about it. I can hardly even remember most of the people that were there, even if they are watching right now. I think I can remember like a few of them, but beyond that, that is brutal when you think about it, that you're so sleep deprived that once you finally get enough sleep to think back and go, oh, I wonder what law school was like, you're like, I can't even remember any of it. Like, I can't even remember the finals, because I know that I was dreading the finals in the first semester, but we both were, but I can't even remember a lot about sitting down in the room, what the room looked like, what was on that exam, or anything like that. I just remember there was a final, it was torture, I was scared about it, and I went to classes, and I was exhausted all the time. That's all I remember about the whole thing. But with that, that's why I'm so much happier, because I actually have time to be happy and know what I'm being happy about, and also have some sleep. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one, if you didn't ask for a live chat, and I don't think you did.
And he actually did ask for a live chat. And we're going to go and pick that up. This one goes to Dejifix, who says, would the West still accept Navalny, even though he supported the taking of Crimea, and if he would have taken over Putin eventually?
Yes, we were going to support Navalny because he's really just a destabilizing force in Russia. He probably there would have been enough internal tumult in Russia if this happened pre-war that they wouldn't have taken Crimea, and that would have been that for the most part. We wouldn't have had to really worry about Crimea or anything else like that. Or we would have seen Navalny maybe give up Crimea, although I'm kind of doubting it a little bit based off of his official statements. But his supporters aren't necessarily a big fan of the war, so he may have also had to factor that into play. And whether he wanted Crimea or not, he probably would have had to have given it up, because otherwise he would pretty much just inherit the spot Putin's in and become Putin. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much for sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Steve Blanchard, who puts in a 20 and says, have the marmot crap on Putin's head.
Oh.
And we shall. I mean, if the marmot wants to poop, it's got to poop or it's got to poop.
It's got to poop. It's got to do its thing. You know what I mean? And it's coming around the corner, folks. It's about to happen. Oh, man. I know that. Hey, it's marmot time, baby.
Hello there. Hey.
Aw, man. It's the freaking marmot time. Damn right it is.
Stop moaning, governor. Pull it together.
Stop moaning. What's going on under the camera, governor? What's going on down there? Aw, man. I'm just getting revved up to snort a line. That's it, but nevertheless. Oh, man. I get a crack out of that.
Lay off the powder, governor. Lay off.
There goes another 100, governor. Here comes $16 from Twitter, governor. But nevertheless. Oh, man.
Mara said, what's in your wallet? Is this a capital one? Nothing.
Sorry, can't talk to anyone not monetized on Twitter. Get $16.
Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. That was so funny. Literally a day before, sorry, I can't talk to you because you're not monetized, then gets $16 the next day. Oh, man.
He's got a whopping paycheck, governor. Step out of the way.
We'll have another hit piece made about us tomorrow because that's all he's got left. And then he'll lose another 100. But beyond that, one thing I will say about the marmot is, Matthew, I got to hear that super chat again to make sure we stay on track.
I just said that the marmot's going to crap on Putin's head. The marmot also has a thing for crapping on hot dog men's heads, too.
I'm telling you what, this ain't no cake factory. It's a freaking log factory. But beyond that, I gotta thank you so much once again for the support. And I will agree, the marmot be crapping on everyone everywhere because it has shits to give. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we are absolutely losing it over here. But I hope y'all are getting a laugh out of that because we do it for y'all. We do it for the viewers. But with that, well, we don't do it for the viewers. That sounds lame. We do it for the Lee Spring Army. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again. I hope that's what you were looking for. And we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Frostbright Productions, excuse me. Tough one for me to say. And they put in a 20, and thank you very much for that support. And this one says, while I'm mixing it all up here, this one says, just wanted to suggest an idea. You guys did a good job in your last documentary video a while back, and you would be willing to do one that covers the progression of the war machines used since the start of the Ukraine war, LSA, and also follow-up. My dad would enjoy watching that if you guys ever found the time to do so. And Frostbright, excuse me, I'm doing it again. We actually have that in the plans to start doing the feature-length videos once more. The only catch with those is, unlike the short war videos, those actually require a ton of production and script writing, as well as creating the visuals for the video, which takes about a week. So those aren't as light to make as the other ones. So we're going to start making them again, but they're going to be a little bit less frequent. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support, Frostbright. And I love to hear that you do like the longer length documentary videos. I would love to do those. That's actually the original content that I wanted to do on YouTube, was long-length documentary videos, kind of like down the rabbit hole sort of things. But the problem with that, like Matthew said, is that they require an extensive and complicated amount of production, and it is very time-consuming. Usually those videos, maybe 10 minutes of film, takes about 20 hours to produce. So it is a very laborious kind of a thing to do. It takes a lot of time. And the one thing that would really cut down on that a lot is if we end up hiring an animator, because that's kind of like the most difficult part of making those videos, is the animation side of things on screen, what y'all are actually seeing on film. That's the most difficult. If we were to just do them like this, like we're doing right now, where y'all just see our computer screen, that is actually relatively easy. You know, compared to that, at least in terms of production time, because you can put those out in a day. But those are so in depth and so complicated. It actually will require a small workforce to be able to get those done. And usually the big channels y'all see that do those, like a couple of them that I can think off the top of my head. Armchair Historian is probably one of them, and Ocean Liner Designs, which does maritime kind of YouTube videos, is another one. And then Real Engineering is actually one. And funnily enough, he's actually subscribed to our channel, and I guess he watches it here and there. But beyond that, those folks actually have entire crews of animators and editors that help them to make those videos. And it would be really tough for us to do that on our end at the kind of quality that I would be looking for, because I would be I'm a very big stickler for quality, and I can't even deliver the kind of quality that I'm looking for. But I will certainly be trying to make videos like that in the future, because that's what I'd love to do. But another thing about those is that the amount of expense to make a video like that, especially considering that we have to hire people to help us make that possible, would be so much that we would have, no doubt, have to have sponsors put onto those long-length documentaries just to most likely subsidize the cost of them, as far as the animators, the editors, all that stuff. And then maybe, just maybe, to make a small little bit on top, we would have to be able to have sponsors on those. And so that's something.
Sounds like we might break even on those, actually. It sounds like it might be a losing money affair, really, from the sounds of it, because animators are not cheap.
Well, not really. I mean, they're it's not going to be a losing affair, especially if it's a very well-made documentary, though it'll get plenty of views. And that's, but those things, but once you start getting into those videos, you can't really make them just because you like making them. You really have to make them as almost like a capital venture. Like, you have to make them to make money. Or because, if you're breaking even, you're putting in monumental amounts of effort, to really just do something that ends up not really benefiting much. Because if we were able to actually make something off of them, by getting sponsors and having massive viewership and really, working on it and tailoring it like that, we can start focusing on other things, even more projects in the future. But if you're breaking even on those, or you're even losing money on them, it's really hard to even make them in the first place, or to even dedicate the time. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, let's see, I think someone asked about, let's see. I don't think he does. I've watched his in the past. I've actually watched a couple of his, and it sounded like he did know about the channel, but I don't know if he watches it often. But I do have to say this. I love his channel. Really cool content over there, especially if you're into maritime stuff. And the guy's a machine. I mean, he puts out like 20 to 30 minute long videos weekly, which I could never imagine doing right now with how we work behind the scenes, with the kind of quality he has, because it's all animated and everything. Like, really high quality too. It's crazy. But yeah, he's an absolute machine with the stuff he does, and it's very well researched. And it's a model kind of a documentary format to me on YouTube. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Hokey Redneck, you're right. 40% of that would then go to taxes. So it would be kind of a bit of a tough thing to do in the background. And but I'm not saying it's impossible. We certainly will look into doing those in the future for Frostbite. It's just that there's a lot of hurdles, especially as far as the financing of those kinds of major projects, that would have to go down behind the scenes to make them possible. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Flash1, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you, Flash, as well. He says, do you think if they demolish the Crimean Bridge before Putler's election, Would you win by more than 90%? Ha ha. And great to see you both for a second time tonight.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for asking a good question. Yes, you would win by 100%, 110% if the Kerch Bridge was blown up, no doubt. But nevertheless, thank you so much for being happy that we're here tonight, and thank you so much for supporting the channel and helping it to keep rolling. I love to know that you're here. It's always great to have all of our legends here with us all at the same time, and it is amazing to see that so many people have enjoyed the stream again tonight. 10,000 of y'all have watched the second backup stream after the first one went down. And even before that, I think the first one got up to an insane, and let me just go back and check this to double check. Let's see, the first one has gotten up to an unbelievable 35,000 views already. So it's been an amazing night tonight, unbelievable. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Melissa Renee, Swamp Hag of the LSA, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Melissa, for that support. She says, LSA for the bourbon and pizza fund, and kisses to the haters. And I'm telling you what, we're putting it all toward the pizza fund, but if we were still in law school, we would put it toward the bourbon fund, because I'd have probably started drinking not too much longer. I was about a week away from starting to drink. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, I thank you so much for the pizza and bourbon fund. I don't drink bourbon. I don't drink at all. And some people were saying maybe they're not old enough to drink in America. No, the drinking age is 21 in America, so we can drink. It's just that we choose not to. The reason why I choose not to is because I've noticed that when people start to drink, I don't know what it is, but it's like drinking kind of sucks your personality out of you unless if you're drinking. And that's something that I kind of want to avoid because I want to make sure that I'm me, and I don't really like anything for that matter, altering who I naturally am, even if it's just a temporary thing. So that's why I don't touch alcohol or cigarettes or any kind of drugs at all, because I just don't like the concept of it messing with who you are. But with that, I do thank you so much once again for support, Melissa. And I thank you so much for supporting our pizza fund, because it's going to go 100% into pizza because I love pizza. Pizza is delicious, and it is truly the greatest. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is from Panama Floyd, who puts in the 20 and says, for the DDoS Restoration Fund, and take one from the chat.
Hey, thank you so much for the DDoS Restoration Fund. We were restored from the DDoS. They're still here and still trucking. And I gotta thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you entirely, 100% make this possible. And so thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 15 from Bob Anon, who says, as Putin gets older and his grand plans to rebuild the USSR are destabilizing from the West, and military conquest fades away, Russia is continuing now purely because of the sunk cost fallacy, ?
Maybe so. That might be why they're continuing on. I think they're continuing on because at this point they view the war as an imperative. Whether it goes badly for them, they are trying to eke out a victory somehow. Even if it's a Pyrrhic victory or even if it's a actual defeat, but they can claim it's a victory. That's what they're going for. I think that's more so the reason than anything. It's more of a point of pride and prestige for Russia, although they're not really even a major enough country to be worried about pride or prestige at this point in their history. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And thank you so much once again for supporting and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, huge shout out to Historic Tasmanian, who threw in a 15 without a comment. But thank you very much, Historic, for that support, and also for being a longtime channel legend as well. And we also have a 10 from 14 Metallica Freak, who says, hey there, and I'm a freelance journalist, and I want to help your channel. And thoughts?
Oh, well, thank you so much for the support. How would you help? I'll be very interested to know. How would you help? I would be very interested. Let us know. Let us know. But I do thank you for the support, and I thank you for appreciating this channel and wanting to help us out. That is very kind of you. If you'd like, you could DM us on Twitter, and we could talk about that more over there. But of course, details have to be ironed out, and we have to make sure to be able to get into a little bit of what the exact stuff would be behind the scenes. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that quite well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from Vitaly, who says, Slava Ukraine, Slava Enforcer, Slava LSA. And thank you for the dedication. And on a lighter note, have you seen Young Doctor's Notebook? It's highly recommended miniseries set in 1917 Russia.
I have not seen that show. That sounds really cool, though. I love shows like that. You know something, y'all, that I was thinking about, or like today, it hit me kind of. I was like, wouldn't it be cool? Because, and I know this is going to be up Walter E. Lakota's alley because he's the Hawaii Fun Facts guy. But wouldn't it be cool if there was a Pearl Harbor movie that didn't talk about the attack on Pearl Harbor? It just kind of... Actually, you know what? I had two ideas today. One of them was about the attack on Pearl Harbor, but I'll explain both of them. What if there was a movie that was hyper-realistic as far as what it depicted about the attack on Pearl Harbor in real time? Because one thing that people do not know is that the attack on Pearl Harbor only lasted for an hour and 20 minutes, which is not that long when you think about it. You could actually lay out a one-to-one realistic depiction of the entire attack on Pearl Harbor, and it would only take up a majority of a movie-length film, which is really cool when you think about it, Matthew, because like you could show every single thing that happened in Pearl Harbor in real time over that hour and 20 minutes, hour to 30 minutes of the film, and then you could, use an additional 50 minutes beforehand to kind of lay out the scene in Pearl Harbor, but the entire movie would be a one-to-one real-life depiction, almost from a first-person perspective, of an American sailor's view of the attack on Pearl Harbor, or multiple different perspectives of different sailors throughout the attack. Or another movie idea that would be really cool is the refloating of pretty much all of the ships that got destroyed at Pearl Harbor and make a movie about the salvage attempts that happened. Because one thing that people don't know is that all of the ships that were sunk at Pearl Harbor, most, if not all of them, except for a handful, got refloated and were actually put back into service. Which is actually insane. Like when you think about that, they just, took the sunken ships in Pearl Harbor, floated them again, and then sent them off to the mainland U.S. to be refitted, and most of them were back in action by late 1942. So they were actually there for the end of the war. The USS Arizona is one of the few that didn't have that happen because the forward magazine got detonated on the ship. You can actually see that right here. There's the bow of the Arizona. This area here pretty much ceased to exist because the forward magazine just detonated, and so they decided it wouldn't be a good idea to even try and refloat this thing because it wouldn't be worth the time and effort. And also, another thing about the USS Arizona is that there's about 1,100 sailors' bodies who are still inside of this battleship to this day that died in the middle of the attack. Out of all of the people who died at Pearl Harbor, almost half of them died inside of the USS Arizona when it blew up and also when it went down right there. So that was the only one of the battleships, I think, that wasn't refloated and recovered. But all of the other ones were. And that would be a really cool movie, kind of like an Oppenheimer kind of a movie, where you could show all of the salvage efforts that went into refloating these things, because it was actually crazy cool. They got out giant cranes and winches and stuff and were like flipping ships over in the harbor and dragging them around from place to place. People died in the middle of it as well. Divers were getting killed in accidents. I mean, it was one hell of an effort, and really helped out the U.S. Navy in securing victory in the Pacific by getting a lot of these ships back into operation again. It would be a really cool, like those two movie premises would be really cool to make. And I'm not talking about a movie like Pearl Harbor, like the modern Pearl Harbor. I'm talking about one that you haven't even seen before. I mean, really make it as realistic looking as possible. And even realistic enough to show the horrors of what really went on. Like, people, ending up drowning inside of the sinking battleships, and let people kind of get a real perspective of why Pearl Harbor was such a terrible thing, instead of making it look like a sexy romance action movie like the modern Pearl Harbor movie tried to make it look like. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well, at least in my opinion. And Matthew, what super chat even got me into that? Because I don't know how I went down such a rabbit hole right there.
It was Vitaly's, but it had nothing to do with the super chat.
I have absolutely no. So reread the super chat again, because I have absolutely no reason why I went down that rabbit hole.
I just mentioned Young Doctor's Notebook.
Oh, that's what brought me up. What brought up cool movie genres and cool show genres. But still, thank you so much once again for support, and thank you so much for being a diehard member of the Lee Spring Army, and thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we've got a 12 from Bassa Bassa. And thank you very much, good sir, Boss, for that support. He says, does the USA need an attack on PH to get in the war?
Well, that's crazy. He's talking about Pearl Harbor right there. He's like, do they need an attack on Pearl Harbor? No, I don't think they do. I think it'll take maybe something else, but, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. But still, Thank you so much for the support. That is crazy that you just brought that up. And also, let me check this over here. Oh, wait a minute. They didn't. Oh, I guess I don't know enough. There's the USS Utah right there, still rotting where it pretty much capsized. That's wild, to think about it. Because everyone knows the USS Arizona wreck. I actually didn't even know at all about the USS Utah. And you can actually see, it looks like one of the turrets is still on the ship right there. On the USS Arizona, while there's still about 1,100 guys inside of this battleship that are, their bodies are still in there, they did remove all of the superstructure off of the USS Arizona, as well as the turrets. Well, most of them, I think they removed all of them except for the front two. This one got cut up. You can see where the turret was, and I think the one in front of it is still there intact. It's just so far under the water that they don't mess with it. But these two got removed, and I think they salvaged the steel out of the turrets and used them for other projects. And I think they also moved the guns, the main guns in the turrets, to some other weapon systems elsewhere, or other ships elsewhere in the Navy. But with that, I hope that does kind of add a little bit more to Pearl Harbor. Crazy that the next super chat was just about Pearl Harbor, but thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, and I hope I was able to address that very well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Badger Bro, puts in a 10, and says, Enforcer, the Su-34s are falling out of the sky because the pilots are falling asleep listening to Putin's speeches talking about three-dimensional intergalactic space creatures.
I mean, that's probably true, but maybe Putin's onto something with the Empire State Building thing flying over Ukraine. He's saying, I get to talk to them, and they told me I was stupid, and I said they're dangerous. And also, by the way, quick context to back that up, the reason why I said that is because apparently Tucker Carlson, I know, Aaron doesn't want to hear about the guy, but apparently he said that Putin was full of shit now, from what I've heard, which is a little insane.
Oh.
Because weren't you the one who told me about that, Matthew?
Yeah, he made some comment about Putin that got Putin even commenting on it himself, saying, I'm not very happy about what Tucker Carlson even said about me.
Let's see here. Let me pull that up. Let's see. Hang on. This is from the Ukrainian Pravda. And let's see here. No, let's see. Described as a, let's see. I thought it was one of the, let's see. So this is the exact quote. Apparently this was Tucker Carlson on, and I don't know who this is, so if they have a political context, sorry, because I don't know who they are. But someone called Lex Friedman. They were on their podcast, and this is a direct quote from the podcast. I thought it was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I didn't understand what it meant. Denazification? I'm merely saying there isn't a Nazi movement in 2024. It's a way of calling people evil. Calling them Nazis, I thought it was childish, speaking about the Ukrainians. And apparently that's the comment he made. But still calling the... and that was apparently a day ago, actually. But still... It looks like Tucker Carlson may not be as in love with Putin as a lot of people thought he was, although he shilled hard when he was in Russia for what Russia was. Kind of a weird...
I guarantee you. Also, by the way, Lex Fridman's a pretty good interviewer, by the way. If y'all haven't seen that channel, it's pretty good. He's pretty neutral, actually. But on Tucker, he probably came back home and sort of had time to think about how he got basically punked by Putin. And he started thinking, why am I shilling for Russia? Because this isn't really working in my favor anymore because I just got punked. So let me turn the script back around again and actually just go the other direction and say, oh, I don't like Putin. And, now it's sort of like a fake thing because, now that he's now on Putin's good side, now he's going to turn into enemies with him. It's not really his real, beliefs.
Yeah, I mean... I'm guessing that the guy realized after he came back, he was like, you know what? Maybe America isn't that bad, and maybe I shouldn't be shilling for the Russians. And then he tried to flip the script like you're saying. I think that's probably what really did happen, because that is quite the flip right there. From going from, wow, everything in Russia is perfect. I mean, yeah, it's a dictatorship, but at least the groceries are cheap. And now he's going, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's crazy. It's like, that's a real flip. That's literally a 180 right there.
Yeah, it's definitely a 180. But that's the MO for the mainstream media type people. They just basically go with whatever works at the moment.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. Y'all write down some notes. But with that, I hope that does address that well. With that, we're on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a 20 from Jesus UCSB. And Jesus, it's good to see you once again.
Second time.
Hola. He said, let me speak some Spanish to our new Latino viewers. He said, amigos, bienvenidos el ejército del Spring y viva Ukraini. LSA. I butchered that. Sorry about that, Jesus. Didn't mean to disrespect the language like that, but there you go.
Amigos, bienvenidos al ejército del Spring y viva Ukraini. LSA. Thank you so much for the support, Jesus UCSB, and helping the channel to keep running. And I know, but still, I know I probably butchered it as well. But I took some one class of Spanish in school, so I got to be like every aspiring U.S. politician and butcher at least one Spanish sentence with absolutely no accent whatsoever or anything. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for welcoming all of the brand new friends to the Lee Spring Army. And of course, Slava Ukraini! And thank you so much once again, Jesus UCSB, for being an undying member of the Lee Spring Army. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Basa once again, who puts in a 12 this time, and says, what is needed to get the USA in the war? Pearl Harbor was the trigger for the U.S. There's some who say Pearl Harbor was a false flag to get into WE2.
People who say Pearl Harbor was a false flag, I guess don't know what a false flag is. Because a false flag is when you conduct an attack on yourself to justify going to war with someone else. But Pearl Harbor wasn't a false flag because the people who attacked us was the Empire of Japan, and it's not really like it's some kind of a far-out hoax to say they did it because they admitted they did it, and they even filmed it. And so it would be really tough, and also on top of that, it'd be really tough for us to also say that it was a false flag because some Japanese aircraft did get shot down, and their remnants and their wrecks washed up onto the shores of Ford Island and inside of the Bay of Honolulu all over the place. And we didn't go and build a whole bunch of zeros to false flag ourselves. So Pearl Harbor is by no means a false flag. A lot of conspiracy theorists like to say everything's a false flag, but if you live in conspiracy theorist land, and I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying that in general for conspiracy theorists, if you live in conspiracy theory land, nobody ever does anything to you. You're always just doing stuff to yourself and beating yourself in the head with a bat and then going, owie, stop, you know, and blaming it on someone else. And that's why I don't live in conspiracy theory land, because it's literally just like cuckoo world up in there. Like, for example, one thing I find crazy is that people will say that, and this is one that's really interesting to me, that the Rothschilds run the world and they pitted the Soviet Union and America against each other so that way all the masses wouldn't rise up against them. It's like, that's such a stupid concept, because if nobody knows, the Soviet Union ended up killing people, you know, for being wealthy, and they ended up fleeing the country at the very beginning of the Soviet Union and ended up over here in the West. So there's no way that there's anyone controlling both sides, because if they even were in the Soviet Union at the very beginning, they would have been killed, and then no one even came into the Soviet Union after that because they were too scared to. So that would make absolutely no sense. You know, just talking about one of the conspiracy theories out there that I just find to be absolutely batty. Well, there's a million of them, but I mean, you know, in reality, I just find them all to be absolutely insane. But beyond that, getting back to talking about Pearl Harbor, I don't think America would need a Pearl Harbor to get into this conflict, because for World War I, we didn't need a Pearl Harbor. We just needed them to sink a boat, because everything starts with a boat. And then we also just kind of liked the British a little bit. And on top of that, the Zimmerman, I believe it was the Zimmerman, it was the Zimmerman or a Zimmerman telegram, was given to us by the British, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. But anyways, they gave it to us, and then we went, how dare they? And then we went to war with Germany. So that's something that I'd say, you know, World War I shows we don't need a Pearl Harbor. We just need to be pissed off enough to go over. And I think that's probably what we'll deal with now, is just getting pissed off enough that we go over there instead of having to get attacked directly. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Zezzies, who puts in a 10. And says, keep up the great work on the channel, guys. And you have a great community here. And Slava Ukraine. And thank you, and Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make it possible. And I gotta say, thank you so much for enjoying our dedication and efforts and strength and energy in running this channel, because people like you help to make it possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Martin Gonzalez, who puts in a 10 and says, "We love Jesus UCSB."
Don't we? We love Jesus. We love everyone in the Elite Spring Army, and thank you so much for loving Jesus. Jesus is a real one, an absolute LSA tanker. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that addresses that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Mad Jack F, who puts in a 10 and says, "It's not a lot, but it's my monthly support for an outstanding war news source, and put it towards some more pizza or pizza rolls, as I enjoy some myself." And I do as well. I love those Tostinos. I'm telling you what.
Man, I love pizza rolls. They're so good. But thank you so much for the support. And that, don't say that it's not much. That's a lot. That means a great deal to us, that you appreciate the channel enough to support it. And I thank you so much for helping us to keep it rolling and caring enough about it that you'd want to support it. And so thank you so much once again. It means a great deal to us, and we're going to make sure to get ourselves some pizza rolls. Although those things are getting kind of pricey these days, I'm not going to lie. For the amount you get and the price you pay, like, it might just be more economical to get a pizza. I think you might get more out of a pizza than the pizza rolls now. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Quantum Fighter, who puts in a 10 and says, "The Highwayman. American Remains might be a good song for the LSA. Of course, switch some words around to Ukraine Remains and so forth. And Enforcer Matt, could y'all tell me when I subbed and take a live bliat?" And I'm not sure if we do know, like, exactly when each viewer subbed or not without going into the control panel, but Enforcer, can we tell?
Sadly we can't. It's very hard to tell, because on the YouTube side of things, they tell us who subscribes, but they really only like to tell us when big YouTube channels subscribe to our stuff. And let me see if I can get a list. Let's see here. Let's see, Lifetime, and let's see, Real Engineering is up at the top. He's the largest YouTube channel that subscribes to us with 4.3 million subscribers. And then it just goes down the list from there. Through, let's see here. I'm trying to find... Sadly, I hate to say this, unless if you have a big YouTube channel and you allow people to see that you publicly subscribe to someone, it won't show me. Because I'm looking here, and yeah, it will not. It actually cuts off. Let me see where it cuts off. Let's see here. Dang, it goes on and on and on. But I finally found where it gets less than 1,000 subscribers. So we can actually maybe find you if you're publicly subscribed. I don't really know, because it does keep going. Like, I'm now down into the 800s, and now we're down into the 700s. Oh, look, there's Toten VT right there with 760 subscribers. He subscribed on July 18th of 2022. And what's their name
Toten
again?
Frog?
Yeah, Toten.
Oh, no, Toten. I thought you said Toten Frog or something, but it was Quantum Fighter.
Quantum Fighter. Ask Quantum Fighter how many subscribers he has, because we might be able to actually find him if he's publicly subscribed.
How many do you have, Quantum Fighter?
And hopefully an answer will come in soon. Let's see here.
Enforcer, I've got to tell you, we do have about 15 more super chats to get to.
Whoa, Jack, whoa! Whoa! Oh, we got a lot of them to get to, actually. That's crazy. That's whack. But we'll try and look for that maybe a little bit later. But still, thank you so much for the support, Quantum Fighter. Sadly, I can't find when you subscribe, but maybe with a little bit of time and elbow grease, we can. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Badger Bro, who puts in a 10 and says, "Enforcers, if you think law school lectures were torture, imagine the people that have to sit through Putin's speeches about two cerebral cortices and Charleston.
Charleston.
I said Charleston, actually. I was going to say that. It was Carlson, actually.
Well, I do thank you for the support, and I would have to agree. I mean, Putin's speeches, you could really jump off a bridge listening to those, because I couldn't even handle it hardly. I felt like I wasted 2 hours of my life watching that interview, and I wish I could get him back. I still wish I could get him back. Honestly, I feel like I would rather do 2 hours of law school again than 2 hours of Putin's speech, and that's saying a lot. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat. While Hokey Redneck says, Jesus, Matt. And I gotta tell you what, I did butcher that last one quite sweetly, didn't I? But this next one goes to Filthy Cubone, who puts in a 10. It says, longtime viewer, but first-time donator. Hey! And in a hypothetical where Moldova enters the war due to actions in the breakaway regions, what do they bring to the table, and how would this change the war, if at all?
Not much. They actually don't bring a lot to the table. The Moldovan armed forces is fairly small, and the Moldovan GDP is also very minuscule as well. Moldova as a nation has a GDP of $13.68 billion. It would take about 3 of these. Well, actually, it would take a lot more than that. You know what? Let me... 1 second, y'all. I just need to go do some quick... Okay, alright. So, let me now do some research on this. I'm going to just do like a general running figure for the both of these people. So it would take about 15 and a half Moldovas to create a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk, to give you all an idea of how big the country of Moldova is economically. On top of that, they only have 9,000 active members of the Moldovan armed forces, meaning that they bring about 3 additional brigades to the Ukrainian war if they were to join on the side of Ukraine. So in a big sense, their joining would be minuscule. And also another thing is that the Ukrainian military spending pre-war, I think, was about as large. Let's see, Ukraine military spending. Now let's see here. What is Ukraine's military budget? As of this year, the Ukrainian military budget is $45 billion, and an additional $100 billion of foreign military aid. So you can get an idea that Moldova would be a drop in the bucket if they joined in the war in Ukraine. It would more so be like a foreign legion in its own right and size than anything. But I hope that does give a fairly good idea of how big Moldova really is in the big sense. They're actually a very small, a very minor country. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And also, Crazy Z said they don't even have an airport. Is that right? Oh, no, they have one.
Crazy Z?
No, they have one. Here it is. They have one airport that I can see, but maybe there's another 1 or 2 around. But no, I'm actually doubting that. I think they only have the one airport. Does this city have one? No? Well, I be dipped. They really just have one airport. That's it. Wait a minute. Hey, no, they have 2. They have 2. They have one in Transnistria, and then they have another one in Moldova proper. But we don't recognize Transnistria here as an official country. We recognize them as a phony country. So there are 2 airports in Moldova. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Nick, still thanking LSA, who puts in a 5 and says, my wife says thank you, because you guys are the only news channel she watches because you make it interesting. And can I get a yeehaw?
Yes,
you can. You did. You got one.
Dude, still, thank you so much, Nick. Still thanking LSA for being here. And thank you to you and Carrie Ann Corzo, which is your wife, for appreciating this channel so much and enjoying it. I'm glad to know you all like this channel because we try and keep it light, and I think that's a great way to deliver news. Not to go into that giant speech or anything like that about why I think that's such an important thing, but I'm so happy that y'all appreciate that and y'all enjoy the unique way we cover news. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Nelson Antennas, who puts in a 5 and says, just a reminder that the little hot dog boy is still a douchebag. He's more than a douchebag. He's a menace to society. I'm telling you what. He's pissed off basically everyone at this point. And I saw he got blocked by a British minister or a politician today. He's getting some high-level hatred now. So congrats to him for pissing everyone off. But Enforcer, what say you?
I find it funny that we know people on good terms, Matthew. Like, we know foreign ministers on good terms. We know people in the defense on good terms. We know, General Petraeus on good terms. We know people on fairly good terms. And then there's that guy who everyone hates that guy. Like everyone he runs into ends up hating his ass for good reason. And I gotta thank you so much for the support. I do agree. The hot dog guy is a schmuck. And not only a schmuck, he's also like a 5'7" manlet or something like that. The guy is like pretty much a legal midget. But beyond that, And also, no disparaging to anyone who is 5'7" or smaller. I'm not saying that about y'all. I'm just saying in his special instance, they raised the bar to be a legal midget up to his height. But beyond that, I got to thank y'all. So I got to thank you so much for the support once again. And I got to agree, Hot Dog Boy, he ain't got it. And also, another funny thing is that when he was on this Twitter DM with us the other day, he was trying to say, we're irrelevant. It's like, who cares? Like, I don't care if I was relevant or not. I'm here doing my thing. But to that guy, what matters to him is actually being relevant, and that's why the guy's lashing out at us and like other YouTube channels and everyone he can on Twitter, because nobody's listening to him and nobody cares what he's got to say. So now he's got to lash out at everybody to try and make himself feel important. I'd hate to be someone like that. But you know, when you get DDoS like this, you got to bring it up every once in a while and talk about the nut, because the DDoSings have something to do with that guy, probably. Very, very high chance it does. But with that, hope that does address that quite well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to John Scott, who puts in a 5 and does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, John, for that support, and we appreciate it very much. We also got a 5 from Carl, who said, keep on trucking. And we shall, Carl. And huge shout out to you and John for that support. And then we have a 5 from Opus, who says, LSA. And, hey, LSA, I'm telling you what, thank you, Opus, as well, for that support. And we also have a 5 from James Dunn, who says, it's most likely only going to the Ukraine until the war ends. But if you contact them to fund one for Ukraine, they might set it up. Or Ukraine 24.
And what are we trying to set up again? I missed that part.
I didn't get that part either, really, to be honest with you.
We could try and set something up, but usually we run our fundraisers through YouTube Give. And also, another thing, oh my goodness, another thing that people are starting to learn in the Ukraine war community, and I've been saying it for so long, and people have bashed us so much because I said it, is that fundraising for military organizations might backfire on you. Someone learned that the hard way when their Patreon got deleted. And we've been shit on for years, for 2 years now, because I only fundraise for humanitarian groups. One, because actual fundraising for the armed forces on a civilian level like we're all on is practically pointless, because the amount of money that a military requires to function means that no matter how much money we actually gave to them on their end, it means nothing to them. Like one $2,000 drone, one $3,000 drone, however much they cost, it is literally nothing. Like, it seems like a big deal to us, but to the military, that's nothing. Even to the Ukrainian military, that's nothing in cost. Most of the stuff that the Ukrainian military receives has to be given to them by another foreign government in bulk numbers for it to actually mean anything or to make an impact. Beyond that, you're just doing something to feel good. On a humanitarian level, however, you're actually helping out a great deal. If you raise $12,000, usually a humanitarian organization is able to stretch that $12,000 out to help out hundreds of people in a massive life-changing way. So in terms of impact, helping out a humanitarian organization on our level does much more to help out in the war in Ukraine than helping out on the military level to try and look cool. Another thing about that is that a lot of platforms, YouTube in particular, doesn't like it when people use their platforms here to try and support war. In a sense, killing in a way, in a larger sense. They don't really like that, and they start to look down on that. So it's very smart to play within the rules of what people allow you to do and make sure that you're doing something that is okay with the platform you're on, like Patreon or YouTube, because if you don't, you end up having a good chance of running into their horns and getting impaled by them when you violate their policies. Which, while I'm all for Ukraine, I also want to make sure that we can help out and continue to be here instead of get obliterated because, we violated Patreon or YouTube's or Twitter's rules or something like that. You have to play by the company's rules, otherwise you're going to get blasted in very easily. So with that, I hope that does address it. Also, another thing is that 90% of all the drones that Ukraine uses right now in the war come from Ukraine. They're domestically produced inside of Ukraine. Another thing is that the other 10% out of all of those, most of that other 10% is provided by foreign nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and so on. And out of that 10%, probably less than 1%, maybe even far less than that, is actually provided by crowdfunding or crowdsourcing out here in the wide open internet. So that's why it doesn't really mean much of anything to the Ukrainian military. It's just a feel-good thing for us. Doesn't really have much of an impact to them. But when you help a group like Razom for Ukraine help to evacuate civilians or even feed them, you're actually helping out hundreds of people. So it's more of like an impact on how many people are we actually able to affect here in this channel, and on a humanitarian scale, it's far greater than what we could do on a military scale. And on top of that, it's a violation of YouTube, Patreon, Twitter's rules, and everyone else's rules to do something like that. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support. But nevertheless, we could always try and fundraise for something. But once again, it has to largely be humanitarian. And also the other thing is, well, you know, that's enough of that rabbit hole. We still got many super chats to go. But with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, a big shout out to Neil Vizanat, who puts in a 2 along with the Badger Bro once again. And they said, just because, LSA. And I'm telling you what, just because. Enforcer, what say you?
Hey, just because. It's a good reason why. But thank you for the support and helping the channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a 5 from Halligan218, who puts in an object, unidentified object. It's actually an emoji that my computer didn't know what it was, and it freaked out. It says, for the Plum Fund to keep that marmot away from the internet cables.
I'm guessing it was a plum emoji. I'm guessing that's
It must
probably
have
what, yeah. But thank you for the plum governor. But still, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for helping us out with the Plum Fund. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and the next one goes to Wyatt Logan, who puts in a 5 and says, for the Caffeine Fund to keep the enforcers awake. And as always, thank you for the hard work, and give that hot dog boy hell for the LSA.
Oh, honestly, I don't really want to. I just want that stupid idiot to stop talking about it. It's like, we would be fine. Like, we are fine, actually. We're just leaving that idiot alone. But the thing is that he doesn't leave anyone else alone. Like, we could stop talking about that guy entirely, and he'll make another hit piece on us in, like, 3 or 4 days. And then after that, after he sees he doesn't get traction from that and loses another 100 subscribers because of that video, he'll then decide to shift things around and make it really spicy by not running a Ukraine war news stream the next day. He'll then go attack a whole other channel that's not us. He has like a rotation of several YouTube channels that he just goes and attacks these days, and that's what half or most of his stream is about. But, you know, if we have to give hell, we will give hell. And I thank you so much for the support and backing up the Give 'em Hell fund, just in case we have to. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And it is time to move to the live chat questions. Tonight we have the Morse code decoders, but we have one more super chat from Basa Basa, who puts in a 6 and says, LSA, and please come over like 80 years ago.
And hey! And like, well, 80 years ago, I got a time machine. We'll do it. But still, thank you so much for the support, Basa Basa, and thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. But with that, we are finally on into the live chats. But really quickly, I do have to say this. We have run out of time, actually, in between the last stream and this one. We have run for an entire 3.5 hours. So sadly, we're only going to be able to get a very limited number of live chats, probably 3 of them. But of course, we got to address the Morse code deciphers first, and then we'll get to those live chats. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
Tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Rumstilch, and Toxic Bananas, Thailand LSO, and David Millsaps. And they said tonight's Morse code cipher is Russia is playing with fire, and they live in a nest of pure kindling. And long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And y'all got that dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. And I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 737th day of the war. Really impressive. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that to all of y'all quite well. And thank y'all for getting that Morse code message each and every single night. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And we are on to the third to last question of the night.
All right, it looks like we only have 2 left in the spreadsheet. So this one goes to Zezis, who says, would Navalny killed by Putin, could this incite or further escalate a civil war in Russia?
I don't think it's going to incite a civil war, but it's certainly going to incite a decent amount of unrest. With that, I hope that does address that pretty well. And thank you so much once again for asking a really good question. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this is going to be our last one, as that's all we've got left.
Oh man, I forgot. But anyways, with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
In that viewer is Ravenna Rose, who says, is it true that some of the money that was sent to Ukraine goes to our own forces over in surrounding NATO countries?
Sometimes, yes, that is true. It's not really a big amount of it. It's a little bit. But yes, that is true to an extent. I think it's just in the millions or tens of millions. So as far as our aid packages went in the multi-billion size, it was practically nothing. But some of it did end up going to our own forces over there. But another thing about that is that a lot of people imagine the aid packages to be literally just be a giant like pallet of cash and we just send it places. It actually isn't. It's also locating material values of support in terms of dollars. So we approved like $3 billion for Ukraine. If we just take that $3 billion chunk, they get $3 billion worth of military equipment. And, mostly $3 billion of military equipment, but then there may be some actual hard cash that we end up sending over there as well. But it's a minuscule amount of that $3 billion of total aid. That's one thing that people always get confused because they hear a money figure and then they imagine it's actual physical money instead of us sending a monetary value worth of military vehicles and material equipment to them instead. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching. On the last stream, we reached a peak of 6,000 people on the stream at one time, and we're about to reach 30,000 views on that stream before it got cut off. We then came onto this one and reached a peak of 2.5 thousand people, which was incredible. I couldn't even believe that so many of y'all even came back after the first one went down. And 12,000 of y'all watched this one as well. So really in total, 40,000 people have watched tonight's news here on this channel. And I got to say that we are entirely honored to all 40,000 of y'all, each individually, that y'all found this channel worthwhile to click on and watch the news that we were running. It means so much to me. And I got to say that I'm wildly appreciative. Thank every single one of y'all so much once again for enjoying this channel and just really finding it to be worth something at all, news-wise and quality-wise. If y'all are new and did enjoy, please make sure to subscribe. We run this news literally 6 days a week, every single day at the exact same time at 10 p.m. Eastern time, except for Mondays. Monday's the only day we take off on the stream, but we cover the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine in picture and video evidence almost every single day. You can always count on us to be here doing this because this is what we love to do, and this is what I feel like I was born to do. And so with that, thank you all so much once again. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Least Spring Army. The Least Spring Army will never die.
And good night to the LSA. Thank you all for another great stream once again tonight. And of course, we'll see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And of course, we appreciate you all very much. Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava, and of course, good night.
Yes. The Least Spring Army